Nick Langworthy joins me now in studio. He is the state Republican Party chairman and officially, as of today at least, Friday afternoon, a candidate for Congress in the redrawn 23rd district that covers a good chunk of southern Erie County and the southern tier. Welcome, Nick.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Scott.
Pleasure. Now, Nick, you decided to enter this race when Congressman Chris Jacobs decided not to run recently. He said every elected Republican who endorsed him withdrew all of that support because he came out in favor of gun control measures. Did you by any chance pressure Chris Jacobs to leave the race?
No, I absolutely did not pressure Congressman Jacobs to leave the race. I think that he had to evaluate what his prospects of victory were in a district where he faced primary opposition. He had more than one declared opponent. This is the most Republican district in the state of New York, and dare I say probably the most Republican district in the northeastern United States of America. It's got very strong Second Amendment roots throughout the southern tier. I mean, the place I grew up, there are many sportsmen. People treasure their right to bear arms, and Congressman Jacobs' very abrupt position change on gun control, which was a conscious move on his behalf. It was one that turned the race upside down. And you heard stories of outside groups and other candidates looking to get into the race. So he took a week to make his decision. I respect his decision, and it caused us to make some decisions of our own.
So you had discussions with him, but he wasn't pressured, is what you're saying?
I certainly didn't put pressure on him. I do know that county Republican parties that he had just come to know withdrew their support very publicly. Elected officials that had endorsed him withdrew their support publicly, and I think that factored into his decision.
All right, let's talk about guns right now. Congressman Jacobs voted for the bill this week to raise the age to 21 to buy assault weapons. A new Quinnipiac poll shows that 74%, a vast majority of Americans, support that move. Why are Congressman Jacobs and basically 3 out of 4 Americans wrong? And what do you think should change in light of the mass murder here in Buffalo that just happened last month?
Well, I think we've had at this point no bipartisanship in Washington, D.C., and I think that's part of what is absolutely wrong with the system right now. There is no cooperation whatsoever. What happened in Buffalo is a scar that will remain with us forever. I went to TOPS with some of my colleagues and grieved with people that lost friends and prayed with people and laid flowers. I mean, it is something that none of us will ever forget. But at the root cause of this, we have a madman, a lunatic that decided to go and take lives based on the color of people's skin. We have to get to the root cause of why people are committing mass murders in this country, why people are willing to take other people's lives, whether it's in New York City on the subways or at TOPS or in schools. I mean, we have the human life is not being treasured in the same way it once was. And we have a mental health crisis in this country. No one can say that we don't. Funds have been eliminated at the federal and the state level. And no one in the last week, while Democrats in Congress wanted to tout gun control legislation, no one talked about how to get to the root cause of why people are killing other people.
Let me ask you, though, but do you foresee yourself being able to support any type of common sense gun laws that would move the discussion forward? Any type?
I think that we first would have to have bipartisan cooperation in some way, shape, or form. And Republicans have been absolutely shut out of any of that bill crafting. There's some discussion in the U.S. Senate. But, at this point, you have Democrats trying to take the New York SAFE Act, which has made not one person safer in the state of New York, and basically take it on a national level.
But let me ask you,
that package of
specifically you, Nick, is there anything that you would like to see change that would further the gun control?
I don't think more laws are going to save lives at this point. We have, look at this state, we have more gun laws than anywhere else in the country. That didn't save the lives of anyone at TOPS. We have to get to the root cause of why people are stealing other people's lives and why are they committing with hate in their hearts these murders. We have a mental health crisis in this country. And also, we have to also discuss why young men in this country are committing these kind of crimes. There is a generation of young men, particularly, it looks to be a pattern, that are causing these crimes. We need to use the full resources of the federal and the state and all the other governments to get to the root causes of what's going on and why we're having the extreme hate being expressed by young men in this country. And honestly, there has to be a tough discussion in this country about parenting. And if a young person turns out to be a mass murderer in your household and you had no idea, while that young man had a 500-page manifesto, well, then shame on you. And that has to be on the table for discussion. Democrats are looking to take a crisis and to go and continue to go after the Second Amendment and the rights of all law-abiding citizens. More laws and regulations on law-abiding citizens are not going to prevent lunatics from killing people.
All right, let's move on to inflation now, Nick. Inflation, of course, is the #1 issue for many voters out there. We see it every day. We just hit a 40-year high. Everyday items keep getting a whole lot more expensive, especially eggs and gasoline and bread. But we're seeing it all over the world. If you win and Republicans take control of the House in November, is there a law that you might be able to help pass to actually help lower some prices?
Well, I think inflation is absolutely out of control, and you could look from nearly the moment that Joe Biden took the White House that inflation took off like a rocket ship. And that is what we have to tackle, because this is a feckless administration that hasn't been able to tackle any of the problems put before this country. Coming out of a pandemic, we're spending money that we don't have. The reckless spending that went on in the different rescue plans that Joe Biden's put forward have exploded inflation. And we have the biggest crisis going on right now are gas prices. And that is the most inflationary thing that all of us are experiencing. A trip to the gas station, I don't think it's possible to get out of there without spending $75 or more. That is crippling family budgets. And a trip to the grocery store at this point, which is driven exactly by gas prices and fuel prices, because of the farming on top of the transportation costs of our food and all of our goods. This is a trip to the grocery store is a major economic discussion in a household at this point.
So, Nick, what's the #1 thing that you think that the president and that administration can do?
Well, I think we have to honestly live within our means. I mean, printing more money to create programs that are absolutely not accomplishing anything for people is the biggest problem. I mean, the president has spent trillions of dollars since he took office, most of which won't be, the results of which will not be seen for years to come. Yet it has put tremendous stress on our economy, and the runaway inflation is a result of that. The supply chain crisis is one of those issues, and we have to really have an administration that gets serious about this. The Federal Reserve is getting involved at this point, but it's going to put real pain on the everyday taxpayer. We have to have someone that's watching their back again, not creating more programs, not adding additional needless spending, and someone's got to start watching the bottom line again in this country.
All right, Nick, let's talk about Republicans generally, I say, are running against President Biden and Democrats in Congress. I think we can agree on that. Most believe that the country is going in the wrong direction. The numbers are overwhelming. But what are you running for? What specifically is your platform, Nick, to help Western New Yorkers here?
Well, I absolutely am running for Congress in order to tackle some of the big problems ahead of us. I think one of the greatest problems that we have is the fact that this administration has stopped American energy exploration and done everything they could to make us more dependent on foreign oil. We had, in the last administration under President Trump's watch, that had been limited. And our gasoline prices came down, and now here we are, after just a few years. And the first thing symbolically the president did when he took office was to sign a ban on the Keystone Pipeline. And many will say, well, the Keystone Pipeline would not have produced gas at this point. No, but it is a speculative market, and it would have shown that new energies were on the table. I talk to people in the energy sector, and they say that they're giving up on New York, that it's just too tough to do business. They can't get pipelines. They can't get the gas out of the ground that we have in the southern tier. It's the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. Something has to give. We have to use the resources we have here in the United States of America so that we're not dependent on crisis in Russia and different, international pressures that will be put on the United States that will cause our citizens, our taxpayers, to pay more at the pump and to pay more to heat their homes.
And just quickly, the president says that it's the Putin price hike. Do you believe that or do you not believe that?
Gas prices had absolutely exploded before the Russian aggression in Ukraine. That is, it's certainly grown the problem, but the problem was here long before. Gas had gone up over $1 a gallon more than it had before Joe Biden was president when he came in. When you send a signal to the markets that you're no longer going to pump American oil and that you're going to put barriers in the way of American energy being put in the marketplace, this is exactly what's going to happen. This administration is more worried about taking care of their left flank and supporting, the socialist and radical causes that so many of the biggest mouths in Congress, support, that they have forgotten the everyday middle-class taxpayer in this country.
All right, let's talk about some of your critics out there. There are some out there. You have faced growing criticism over the past few days for running for Congress for this congressional seat while chair of the state party. You currently are. The Fulton County Republican Party chair said that you should step down and told the New York Post, and I quote here, "It's insulting to think that you can run the state committee, the primaries, and on the other hand, run for a congressional seat. Nick is going to look at what is best for himself," end quote. How can you be a candidate and be an effective party chair?
Well, I have done the job for 3 years. I have a world-class staff at the New York Republican Party. I have created a world-class team to run this congressional primary. I have detractors. Any political organization has people within its ranks that, like to be flies in the ointment and stand in the way. Some of these people, they have their own aspirations and goals, and it is what it is. I talked to many of the stakeholders across the state party, the biggest stakeholders, including Congressman Zeldin himself, and he said the most disruptive thing I could do is step down. This is a unique circumstance, running for this seat, because we had a very last-minute vacancy here. This is, it came one week from the deadline, to file petitions.
Why you, though, Nick? Why you? And as a Republican chairman, didn't you have anybody else in mind that could run for it also?
We're in the midst of all of our other elections, and I will be honest, I think I'm very uniquely qualified for this seat because, my roots are in the southern tier. My family and extended family are in Jamestown. I grew up in Cattaraugus County. I have, real roots here in this seat. I am a proven and tested leader who's taken on the biggest bullies in the Democratic Party. And I believe that will give me a leg up going to Washington and bringing the experience of serving as party leader will help this area have a stronger voice. I also come to the office without distraction. And that is something, as someone that's been on the scene, that's taken on the tough fights, I'm vetted. If there was something that was going to come out, Andrew Cuomo would have used it against me a long time ago.
A couple more questions. We appreciate your time also. Your most high-profile opponent is businessman Carl Paladino, who did very well in this district when he ran for governor. I believe it was 12 years ago. He was first to announce that he was running once Chris Jacobs dropped out of the race. Now, you supported Carl's campaign then. Why run against Carl Paladino now?
A lot's happened in 12 years. A lot's happened in the last few days, too, and that's exactly why I'm running for Congress, because I believe I can be a voice that can serve and be someone that takes on the Biden administration in a clear, coherent, and conservative way without distraction, without getting caught up in nonsense that will distract us from our legislative priorities and the priorities of the region. I served for 7 years as a congressional aide to a great former Congressman, Tom Reynolds.
Yep.
Our mission in our office was to provide the taxpayers of this district with world-class constituent services. I think a lot of people forget that your congressman isn't just there to go do interviews on cable news. They're there to serve people. They're there to help, seniors and students and everyone with their everyday problems with the federal government. And I think that we need to have a refocused effort on that, and that's something that I would be very proud to bring back to this district, to serve the constituents with, you know, respect and the dignity that they deserve, and not just be someone that's out there trying to, you know, become a celebrity on national cable news, but someone that actually understands that it's the people here in Western New York that sent you, and they are the ones that deserve your attention.
And Nick, now both you and Carl are, of course, close with former President Donald Trump. Have you sought his endorsement, number one? Let me ask that.
I have talked to President Trump several times. He's well aware of the dynamics in the race. I certainly would be thrilled to have his support, but
do you expect that he will throw his support behind one of you, or just stay on the sidelines?
You know, in several instances, I've seen him sit out races where he had friends on both sides. He's someone I enjoy an incredible relationship with. I think that'll also help me as I serve in Congress. But you know, I think he'll watch the race play out a bit.
Have you spoken to him recently? When was the last time you spoke to him?
Over the weekend.
Over the weekend. Did you ask for his support?
I would be thrilled to have his support.
Did you ask for his support?
I certainly would love to have his endorsement.
Did you ask for his
endorsement?
endorsement?
I have. He has not made an endorsement, and I'm not putting pressure on anybody to make an endorsement.
All right.
I'm running on my platform, on my agenda, and my credentials for this office.
And we do want to let our viewers know, of course, that we did invite candidate Carl Paladino to speak with us as well today, but he declined our invitation. Nick Langworthy. Nick, thanks for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Scott.